Hello there, it's Jan here from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. We're on the 1st of June, so it's a new sketch challenge today. So this is sketch number 11 for June 2025. I started this back last summer. I think it was August, the first one. So we're coming up to 12 months, and I've been given a little bit of thought to it, and I think I'm just going to run it for 12 months initially. So there'll be another one next month, and then come August I've got something new to slot in its place. So I will just do the sketch challenge for a year. I may slot the odd sketch design into the normal run of the video tutorials, but yeah, come August I've got something new that I'm going to pop in place of this one, I think. So yeah, sketch number 11. I've gone DL today, and I normally make my project and then create, these are my own sketches that I've created from the projects that I've made. So DL in size today, so I've just gone for, I've used UK A4, which is 8¼ inches, and I've cut a square of 8¼ scored it in half at 1 1/8, so I've got 8¼ inches high by 4 1/8, DL being double the length. So whatever your width is, if you want to make a little narrow skinny 3-inch one, you'd go 6 inches tall. For example, if you wanted to do a 3½ inches, you'd go 7 inches tall, just as a guideline. If you want to go outside those parameters, of course, there aren't technically any rules with these. So yeah, this was my sketch, and then I've interpreted that into a nice cute little design today. Been doing a lot of grungy stuff lately. I've got into my sort of Tim Holtz era again at the minute, which I used to love before I started working for Crafters Companion, and then obviously all that stuff got put away. So digging out a lot of the old craft stuff and unpacking the boxes again has given me a chance to sort of discover my sort of love of anything grunge. So yeah, I thought I'd go a little bit cutesy today with this one, and I've got a little set of stamps. These were sent to me from my friend over in America, Michael, and I'm not quite sure. I've got the packaging somewhere. Not sure, they're possibly Lawn Fawn or something like that. I know they do a lot of cute images. Yeah, there's all these gorgeous little animals on here. And initially I was going to do 3 different animals, but I really liked the little lion. I thought he was great. And then I went for the cow. That was very cute. I thought there's not really much correlation between those two. He's a wild animal, he's a farm animal. So then I got to the cow and the sheep, and I thought, no, I wanted to use the lion. So I've gone with 3 of the same image, and I've done 3 of those cute little lion stamps. And then the sentiment is off here. Happy birthday, you party animal. I just thought that was a really nice one. And then inside, I've got a fairly straightforward insert, and I've got one of the other stamps, let's get this party started. And then you get little accessories as well, so you can dress up your animals. You get the little winter hat, there's no with the pom-pom on, you get a little party hat, and you get the little reindeer antlers, so you can actually pop these on and change the look of them. I've just highlighted the one of them with the little party hat today, and when I got to colouring that one in, I just wanted a contrast for it. So we'd gone lots of sort of warm tones with the oranges and the yellows from the paper. And obviously orange and blue are complementary colours, so I've just brought in sort of a turquoisey blue along with just a few little gems there to get that sort of contrast with the complementary colours. So that's my stamp set. It did come with a set of dies as well for cutting the elements out, so I've used those to cut out my hat. But the actual stamp itself, I stamped straight onto the little die cut circles, and I've just used one of my circle dies to cut those out and create those as focal points. So if you're not a stamper, don't be put off by this, because you could put anything on here. You could put a die cut on here. There could be die cut butterflies, you could have dragonflies, you could have something more masculine, you could put stars on them, you could use decoupage on them, you could just cover them in pattern paper and have sort of inspirational words on them. You know, like I've said many times with this, the sketch is just a starting point. It may be that you don't want to use circles. You might not have circle dies. You could make these into squares. Do 3 squares with them. You know, it's just a prompt to have those 3, that little trio of items here with a sentiment. And then I've gone for a little flag banner, and I've just added some extra detail. I've just cut it with my pinking shears just to add some extra detail, which gave me that lovely edge. and also some nice little scraps. You can see there just the little scraps where I've cut off the edge, and that was one of the pieces that I've used in here, along with a scrap of the paper, the pattern paper, just to link it all together for the insert. So really nice straightforward one today, fairly quick to put together. I'm going to do a little bit of colouring on one of these, and I've got the other two prepared ready. So we'll leave the sketch to one side, we'll pop our card over there, and I've got the base elements ready. So like I said, I've took a piece of, this is actually my Centura Pearl again, which I have a stash of. Just trying to use up through some of the stash that I've got. So it's 8 1/4 by 8 1/4. Scored it down the centre at 4 1/8 and just folded that over. So that's my DL card. It is twice as high, twice as long as it is wide, hence the DL, the double length. Okay. And then I've actually done my matten layer for the top of here. So I went for my paper pad. I knew what I wanted to put behind this. Let me just see if I can grab this from up here, because I've popped it back. This is an old Crafter's Companion one, and we all went a little bit wild when these came out. There was a cool tone and a warm tone one, pastel plaids. So the other one's all blues and greens and lilacs. This one's all sort of pinks, reds, oranges, yellows. And yeah, lots and lots of different plaid designs in it. So you can see I've still got a lot left, and I chose that yellowy one. I just thought for the lion, you know, the sort of the tans, the oranges, the yellowy colours were the right kind of look. So that was the paper pad. And all I've done is just cut a simple matten layer. All right, so round the outside, I always make the sketches the same size, and round the outside here I've just gone for a matte, just picked out that darker colour, the orange, and the matte is 8 by 3 7/8. So I've come down 1/4 inch on each measurement, and then I've come down 1/4 inch again. So this one will be 7 3/4 by 3 5/8. I've inked around the paper, and I've popped those together, and we're just going to pop them straight onto the background there. So I'm going to use my tape runner, just add some double-sided adhesive onto the back of here. Come on. And then I'm just going to map this one straight on top of here with just a small border all the way around. When I'm working on that sort of width, I don't like to do the larger borders because it reduces the space that you have to work on. So yeah, they're all equal borders today. Sometimes I stagger the borders and I like a wider border on the card than I do on the matte layer, but these are all 1/8 inch today, so that we've got equal borders. So that's my card base. And then we're going to bring in that strip. So this was a strip left over from what I'd cut the matte layer from, and this is going to go down the center here. So it's too long at the minute. I will actually sort that out in a second. But what I've done on the other side, this measures 2 inches, I think, if I remember rightly. Yeah, 2 inches. And what I've done is I've just measured approximately 1/8 inch in on each side, just and drawn a line there with my ruler, just as a guideline. And I'm going to use my pinking shears now to just use that line and cut up here. I just thought, giving it a little bit of shape. If you don't have the pinking shears, you might have some edge dies. I know some of you have those lovely border punches. You know, you could use one of those on it. If not, you can leave it straight. I just thought this added a little bit more interest. And I was going with, you know, sort of the zigzags, either the lion's teeth or the lion's mane. It just linked it together. And as I say, you get these really nice bits. These will go into the scrap box. They might appear, you know, in future on something else. And then I'm going to go straight back down the other side, just lining the pinking shears up when I get to where they've stopped. They're really simple to line up. I've had these a very, very long time. And it's amazing, you know, things that you had previously that come into the craft workroom. It's like I've had these since I used to do soft crafts many, many, many years ago. And I'm talking a long, long time ago. My mum was a soft crafter. She was actually pattern maker tailor. So yeah, and she taught us, both me and my sister, how to sew. And I used to make my own clothes at one point, but yeah, once I discovered paper crafting, it kind of drifted into the background. And again, I've been sorting through some stuff and found a couple of cards that have got fabric within the card. So that's something else that I have a to-do list. I've got a list of things, of projects that I want to try. So that is one that I might bring again to the channel in a little while. And then all I'm going to do is pop a flag banner at the bottom here, so just up the center from the edges here into that center panel, and just create like that little banner at the bottom, just again for a bit of interest. Now again, nice and simple to do, you know, you don't need any dies for that. And then I'm going to trim it at the top as well, because I don't want it to come the whole way down here. I am going to measure the one that I've done. Let's have a little look and see what we've got on here. That one's not long enough, so we need to get the big one there. And I've come down from the top approximately 6 3/4 inches. 6 3/4 inches. So all I'm going to do then from here is pop a little pencil mark at around, we don't need to be exact, but roughly I'm going to go for where that dip is in the pattern. And then I'm just going to pop this in my little cutter here and slice the top off. Okay, this was one of my birthday presents. I've been after this for ages, just to have on the desk when you're doing smaller items. My daughter bought it for my birthday, so it's my new favourite thing. You wouldn't believe that you could get so excited about things, but yeah, been after this for a while. So, and now the problem I've got now is that this is actually the Tim Holtz one, which is grey and black. My others, you've seen me use the big ones before, which are they're all made by Tonic, but this is the Tonic Studios one, which is orange. So now I'm having a dilemma as to, do I need to replace them? You know what I'm like with the OCD, and I have had this one. This is ancient as well. There's not actually anything wrong with it. So I'm thinking, just calm down, Jan. They don't always have to match, and I'm having to live with it for the time being. So yeah, we're going to pop that one flat. Again, you can add, you know, some height to this if you wish. I've kept it reasonably flat. So I'm going to stick with the tape runner, a little bit down each side, a bit across the top there. And I want to centre this, so make sure that I've got it the right way. I'm opening up the right way. And I want to centre this so that I've got about the same pattern paper. And I'm going to bring it level with the top of the pattern paper there, so that it runs nice and straight. And then technically we should be good all the way down there. Yeah, and then once you're happy with it, give that a press into place, and that's our background done. Okay, so I've got my, I'll pop this one over here for a second, and I've got my sort of little stamped images at the ready. So I've just used one of my circle dies and cut out some circles of scrap card that I'd got lying around. This just happens to be what was left over from cutting the card. It is actually the Centura on the back, but the back of it is okay for colouring on. So I've cut 3 circles, stamped my little images, and then we're actually just going to add a little bit of colour to him. So again, I've kept it very, very straightforward. Let's have a little look. We have got, I've used tan, and I've used red brown, and I've used pale pink for the lion itself. So we're going to go with the tan, and I'm going to go for his sort of face and his body. And again, you know, very, very simple colouring. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular. They're only little small images. They're nice to manage. If, you know, if you're not confident with colouring, you can just do one layer of colour. It doesn't have to be shaded. I am actually going to use my pens and add a bit of shading to mine, but you know, you might want to just leave it at that and stop there. I'm actually going to bring in some of the darker one, so where his sort of hairline is here, I want to bring that darker one underneath, just so that it creates a bit of shadow. And I'm going to put a little bit around the side of his face there as well, just to create some shape. And I'm going to go back to my mid-tone, and these are my Tri-Blends by Spectrum Noir. These are my go-to. I've not done any alcohol colouring for a while. I thought, you know what, these are perfect for it. So yeah, I'm just using that medium tone to nudge the edge of the line there and just soften that darker shade, and then build up the medium one. And then finally, we're going to go back to the light one that we started with and just blend the whole thing. Yep. And then I'm going to do the same for his little body and his arms and legs. So nice, simple. As I say, you may want to just leave it as it is there if that's your, level. If you're not a colorist, then, you can use something that's already pre-printed, or like I said, you could use, you can use die cuts and things like that. And again, I'm going to go to that darker layer, just add a little bit of shading where the body would be sort of overlapping. Back to the medium, blend it out a little bit, and then back to that lightest colour just to finish off. Blend it all out. There we go. And then I'm going to use the pink just to add, because he's so cute, he just needed some little rosy cheeks there. And then I'm going to use that lightest one of that I've just used, the tan, just to go around the edges there so that it sort of blends back out into to that one. And then I'm going to go back to the darkest one, and very, very fine, I'm just going to go back round certain areas and bring that dark line just to define where that sort of darkish shade stops. And I'm not going to blend that one the same, I'm just going to leave that. It will blend into what's already there, like so. She says she's not going to blend, and then she does. Yeah, just a little tiny bit down. It's a bit harsh, that one. I just want, it'll just soften it out a little bit. There we go. I'm not so worried about the hairline. So that's his body and his face. So that was, we had the tan blend for his body and his face. We had the pink for his little cheeks. And then I've got a red brown one that we're going to do his mane with. So I wanted to keep those shades of brown, but I wanted a difference between the tones for his mane. I didn't want to go too dark. I didn't want to go really brown because the card was nice and bright and cheery today. So I was trying to stay away from those dark colours. So again, I've just put the whole area with the lightest one. So this is red brown. And then I'm going to go to the dark one again. And I'm just going to go that same bit here all the way around his little face, just so that it stands out from his mane. So we're going to bring it all the way around here. And then I'm not going to do, because it's only a small area, I'm going to go back to my first colour for this one. And I'm just going to nudge that line with the first colour, and it will blend, rather than trying to do a 3-pen blend there when it's only a smaller area. And then I nearly always go back in with the black, with the dark one, not the black Jan, just the darkest shade, just in the tips of those areas. And then I'm just going to really close to the line art of the stamp, and it just sort of really lets it pop. There he goes. And then the last colour that I had here was a brown grey, because he's literally floating in the middle of that circle. If you look at this one, I've grounded him as if he sat. So yeah, we didn't want him floating around, so I've just used a slightly darker one, and I'm also going to bring in my colourless blender here as well. So we've got brown, grey and the blender, and literally all I'm going to do, I've taken the lightest shade and I'm just going to do some little bits of scribbly grey underneath, like so. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take the colourless blender from underneath, and I'm just going to nudge the edge of all that colour just so that it fades a fraction and sort of blends into the design rather than being so harsh. Okay, and that's my little guy ready to go. So put those back, and we've got him done. And then I also prepared the other two at the ready. So the only thing that I've done different there is I've taken my ink, take the vintage photo ink, excuse me. Oh, excuse me, that felt that one coming. And then I've just gone all the way around the edge of the circle with a little bit of vintage photo. So it's all keeping those browns and those neutral tones, those warmer tones together. Okay, so nice and simple so far. Oh, I think it's coming again. Oh, crikey, that's with my antihistamines. I was talking about this when I was filming the other day. It's been shocking, I think, since we've had all the rain. Right, so we've got 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to stagger these on here. But before I do that, I want to position my sentiment so that I know how much room I've got in between. So if we get that put in place, it'll give me a guideline as to where I need to put the little circle so that I don't run out of space at the bottom to put that sentiment in. So I'm just going to use some wet glue. Oops, got glue on there by the feels of it. They were stuck together. Apologies, yeah, for the sniffling. As I say, I've been terrible this last sort of week or so. The hay fever sort of stepped up a notch. So a little bit of glue on there, and then I want this one to go sort of almost to the bottom of the banner that we created, and about equal distance hanging over each side there. And just make sure that it's running nice and straight. Yep, that's fine. And then that gives me plenty of space to work out where I'm going to put the others. So what I want to do then is one of them I'm going to raise up. Okay, I want one of them actually raised up. So I'm going to bring some foam pieces in, little foam dots, and we'll raise one of them up over the other two just to give a bit of dimension. And that's the only sort of dimension I'm going to put in it. So we'll take those off and he's ready to go. Get rid of those. So I'll leave him there for a second, and then the other two I'm going to have hanging off the edge, sort of like so. So these are going to be stuck straight down, and I am just using my PVA, my acrylic glue. My nose is running now because of the sneezing, excuse me. Do you know? My apologies. Yeah, this one's going to go a little bit way down from the top and a little bit. I've got about 3/8 of an inch or so, and then make sure he's straight. So sitting where he's sitting is straight. And then we're going to do the same with this one. And he's going to sort of echo that. So I'm going to come up similar distance from here than what I did from the top. And I'm going to try and get him about the same distance in from the edge and pop those two flats. Then we've got the one that we put the little foam dots on, and I want him to sort of link the two together. So he's going to come similar distance in from this side and overlap the other two little lions there. We'll make sure he's straight and pop him in on there. And then the last little touch was to do his party hat. I just thought I wanted him, because he was raised up on the little foam dots, I just wanted him to stand out. So yeah, this is from the stamp set with the die to cut it out, and they're just so literally so cute. And then I've just picked a turquoisey colour and a little bit of coral. Just want to tap off some of that glue, and then we're going to pop him just to be the star of the show. He's going to have his little party hat on there. Okay, so we'll have a check of the sketch and see how we did. We'll bring our sketch back in there. Okay, so we've got our background matten layer, we've got our little flag banner that we added the jagged edge to. sentiment going across the banner, and we've got our 3 circles. I chose to stay with the circles. Like I said, you know, you could put hexagons here, you could put squares here, absolutely, you know, whatever you fancy. It is just a guideline, just a starting point for those days where you think, not quite sure what to do today. Having that sketch to refer back to does make a sort of a difference. It can sometimes just sort of trigger a thought or an idea, and you can get cracking with something. So the only thing that I did different, as always, I always bring these in at the end, is I've just added some little pearl accents. So I had the turquoisey ones, which match the hat lovely. And as I say, the orange and the blues are complementary colours. So it was a really nice sort of colour to offset it with. And you can see we've pretty much got the same idea there. The only last thing that I did was my Gelly Place, my glaze pen in black. I've just gone, I don't know whether the camera will pick it up or not, just over the little noses, so that they've got a little tiny bit of gloss on the noses, just as a finishing touch. And that is my design for the sketch challenge today. So you can see there, we've got our sketch, we've got our design, and then inside this one, just cut this slightly smaller. Again, it was the offcut that was left over from cutting the 8 1/4 inch square. I've inked the edge with the vintage photo. I've stamped one of the stamps from the set with the little party hat and coloured it to link with the outside. A couple of little scraps from the outside, and we've got a nice finished card. And what I did think, a couple of weeks ago, I did a teenage card, which was something that I'd been asked about in the comments on some of the videos previously, and I thought, you know, this would be okay for sort of maybe a young teenager, and you could actually substitute the focal one and put the numbers on here. So say it was a 13th, you know, you could actually put the numbers in this sort of focal point here and just have a couple of the images. So yeah, you know, it could be anything, depending on what they're interested in. You know, it could be sport themed. If it's for a masculine or a feminine, it could be sort of the cutesy ones. It could be, I don't know, anything, whatever they're interested in, so that you could translate it. But I just thought, yeah, it would look quite nice with the numbers in here, just as a focal point as well. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that one. Give me a thumbs up for it if you've enjoyed the content, and if you are new to the channel, I would love to have you as a subscriber. I appreciate each and every one of those subscribers. I never dreamt in a million years when I started this just over a year ago that I would end up we're heading up towards 6,000 subscribers. So yeah, it blows my mind every time I see those numbers when I log on to YouTube. So thank you to all of you that subscribe. I know there's a good handful of you that follow regularly and comment on my tutorials. So yeah, very appreciative of all of you. But if you are new, would love to have you join the gang. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there for today, and I'll be back. I have another one lined up ready for next week, and I think we're going to get a little bit messy in that one. That's all I'm going to say. So I'll be back soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye now.